By when you can let me know, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, good morning, everyone.
Hare Krishna
It's a
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Please have respectful obeisances.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
So, one note, Rukmini, Hari Sevani Mataji, we're going to have a breakout session after the break. So, in about an hour and a half, we'll do a breakout, pairs of two, just so you're ready. I don't know what you have to do to get that set up, but. Come on, what's going on here? Share. Okay, share. Oh, no. Okay. Okay. No. Okay. Sorry, I just trying to get this to work out. Okay. And then I have to put something up there for you. Chat. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then there we go. Okay. Now we're ready. Sorry for the delays. Let's just start with our prayers. Om Gana Timrandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttaparagama Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Tam Vitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakamikamscha Hey Krishna Karna Khandu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavane Shri Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakopatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnava Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Shushu Shradhanascha Vasudeva Kataruchi Syanmat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevanat Shunvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Vidyantosto Hiyabadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam Nastapraeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishna Swadamupagate Dharma Jnana Dibisa Kalau Nasta Drisham Esha Puranarko Dunodita. Seeking the blessings of the Bhagavatam from Sanatana Goswami Sri Krishna Lila Stava. Sarva Shastra Dibi Yusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhantara Madhya Sarva Lokaika Drikpada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Shrimad Bhagavato Pramo Kali Dvanto Ditya sorry. Shri Krishna Parivar Tita Sarva O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you who are enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O life breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun, which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. And you are actually Lord Krishna who has returned among us. So today, let's do a quick review what we covered yesterday. So the question is, what did we cover yesterday? Anybody have any things they remember? Please speak up. Anything that you can recall that we discussed yesterday? I think we'll have to start with Rukmini Harisevani because she's on the top of our list. Give me one thing, at least, that you remember.
Okay, I like 2, 3 things very nicely. One was like when we are talking about the deer, and same. Okay, I am so sorry. I don't remember exactly. Okay, and the analogy, there was like analogy of body, that the body is of 9 gates, and how we have to come out of it, and how this material world is, it's just an entanglement. And one more thing, like a person who comes into ashrama, the one ashrama, if someone comes in, actually the goal of it to come in is to actually get out of one ashrama and to do the bhakti. That's why after grasta ashram there is a vanprastha also. So one has to be get into vanprastha. So these things, wife, children, everything, they all of them, actually they are like they actually caught a soul here in this material world, which we think that yes, I'm a body and these relations are gonna stay with me permanently, but no, this is not the fact. So this is the entanglement, and yes, we have to get out of it. So now just this, Prabhuji.
Well, you didn't have to give the full summary, just 1 point or 2 points. But in the allegory of the deer, what were the bumblebees? Anyone know? There were very pleasing sounds to the deer, but what were they representing?
I think, Prabhuji, they were the talks between the family members.
The children, particularly, yeah. And who was standing in front of the deer that he didn't see?
Death.
Tiger, about to devour him. Yes. And who was behind him with the bow and arrow? I practically told you. The hunter. And he was death personified, waiting to bring down the deer. So, anything else? So this whole story, Narada Muni is just explaining to King Prachinabhari. He had explained elaborate allegory, which you read in previous chapters. And maybe like us, he didn't get it. You know, he heard the whole allegory and he said, so what does it mean? I don't know. Why was that? Why didn't he know? Because he was what? Daruka, any thought why he couldn't understand? Anyone? How about you, Ananda Leela?
Maybe because he was too attached and too much materially engrossed.
Yes. Because of that covering to the material nature and his attachment, absorption, he couldn't understand. So then the allegory of the deer was presented, and in this allegory, we can see that death is coming, and it's time for King Prachinabhari to wake up and be attentive to his spiritual life and begin his practice of Bhakti Yoga. So let's see where we are. There we are. Yes, Priya Satyabhama is stated correctly. So now we're going into more talks and more detail. In particular, now the mind is acting. And what is the real cause of the, one second. There it is. What is the real cause of the gross body? It's the mind and the intelligence, the subtle body. They are the things that are creating this gross body. Whether they're pious or impious, he's just creating another situation for the living entity to enjoy and suffer in the next life. So the super soul is guiding this individual soul, and the individual soul always knows how to act according to the reactions of his past karma. I don't know about you, but sometimes, you know, I had some desire for something, and it couldn't be fulfilled immediately. And I thought I forgot about it. And then suddenly the opportunity comes and I said, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to do. And that desire then becomes presented to me to act on again. So this is how the conditioned soul he's living. He doesn't understand. He's under control of material nature, and they're just churning all these reactions. And this comes to him by the activities of his mind and intelligence. The mind is storing all these memories and desires. And the intelligence is saying, yes, 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 I have to fulfill these. So the living entity then goes into either an animal body or a demigod body or some other body on another planet. And thus he's enjoying the results of his past life. Now, we shouldn't make a mistake and think this is talking about the non-devotees. This is talking about what good should be happening to us as well if we don't stay on the path of bhakti. So the living entity may leave the body and go into a dream at night. And he's there experiencing some imaginary activity. And then later he returns to the gross body. But what happens if he turns to the gross body? Then he forgets what was the dream. No longer remembers. So the mind is doing these activities on the living entity. He's bringing him into dream and then returning to the consciousness. So he's leaving the body at night, coming back, waking up from his dream. But Prabhupada guides us, if we train the subtle body in this life by always thinking about Krishna, we will transfer to Krishna Loka after leaving this body. So, I would like to have a little discussion here, and I'll put this up for a few minutes. I'll put this in the chat. That we want to come up with some examples. Is that the right one? Sorry, I thought I had the right one here. Okay, let's wait on this for a second. Okay, we'll come back to this in a few minutes. So, if we follow the regular principles to keep the mind intact for advancing in Krishna consciousness, we shall certainly be elevated to the spiritual platform. And then at the time of death, the mind, intelligence, and ego will no longer be materially contaminated. And when the mind and intelligence and ego are purified, all the active senses of the living entity become spiritual. So, let me go here and look. So what I would like you to make some note on, this is like a homework assignment. Okay? And I would like you to do the following. You can think about it now, but we'll do it, we'll see the results later, next meeting. So I would like you to draw a picture or sketch a picture to show what you understand to be the functions and actions of the mind. For example, like desiring and how it functions in transmigration of the soul. For a conditioned soul versus a devotee. So show a devotee and then show a conditioned soul. And then this picture you're drawing or sketch, take a photo, a snap of it, and post it to our moderator with your name. And in the next class, she will put them on she will post them here, and you can explain them. We'll take some time to discuss them. So any questions about this? You all understand very clearly what we're talking about here. Priya Satyabhama, do you understand this?
Sorry, Prabhuji?
Yes. You understand this homework?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes. I do. Thank you.
It's not too complicated. Somehow or other, give your understanding in the form of a drawing. And then send it in. I think Rukmini should say how they can send it to her. Maybe email would be best. You can post her email address. And then in the next class, we can go through it all. Any questions about this? Jaya Kumari, any thoughts?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. No, Prabhuji, I understood the homework.
So we want to show how the mind is working for the devotee and how the mind is working for the conditioned soul. So this is the essence of what we're discussing these days. And let's see. So Rukmini Harisavani has posted the homework in the WhatsApp group, which I am not part of the WhatsApp group, so she will take care of it all. And then we'll go over it in the next meeting. Okay? So let's continue. Oh, back up. So here, this is another summary given of the upcoming verses, the next 8 verses. The reason for one's next life. So this again relates a little bit to your homework. Identifying with his gross body, the jiva performs actions. So he's acting in this life. He's doing things, fulfilling his desires. And then the result, the karma, the results of that action come in his subtle body. So then something's going to come and cover the subtle body. And by that action, performed with a certain identity, he takes birth in another gross body. So let's just take something a little gross. On the conditioned soul, he has a desire to have some palatable dishes, eat something. And there is a opportunity for him to eat something meat. And so he's doing this, and then there's a reaction that's coming in his next body. And anyone like to speak what that next reaction, that next body might be like? Anyone could please suggest? Yes, go ahead, Rukmini.
I don't know. Whatever meat the person is eating. For example, a person is eating chicken. So in next part, that soul will take the body of chicken, and then the same will happen with him or her.
Okay.
It will be also be it is like I heard in one of the session that and you know, in school also we also have read that every action has equal and opposite reaction. So but in just one case I heard that when someone take beef, so it is written in the scriptures, he will take the birds, the that the number of hairs a cow has. There is this this doesn't apply there. So I just take an example of chicken. But if you take a beef, then I don't know that for how many how many birds he will have to take.
Yeah, please forgive me. It may sound a little bit disturbing, but one time I was traveling in America, and we went into this one city in Texas. On the highway we were driving. And as we were driving, we're coming up this hill, and all you could see is an ocean of cows. Everywhere was cows. Practically every inch you could see was a cow. Unfortunately, that was the place where they gathering the cows to be slaughtered. So much heavy reaction is coming. It was actually a very sad and depressing place. So yes. So now in text 63, Narada is explaining what happens because Prachinabhari says, okay, how are these, I'm doing stuff in this life, how is it going to affect my next life? What's the evidence? So he says, one's actions through the 10 senses, they reveal the chitta or consciousness or mental condition. And they will reveal one's position in the previous life also. So, in particular, if one's eating meat, perhaps he is tiger. That may be also his future position, to live as a tiger. So he can eat meat without restriction. That would be more appropriate. And of course, so many other details, because karma is very involved and very complex. We cannot just say, here's the rule and this will happen. Yes, some of the rules are there, but how they're all put together, we cannot know. Very complicated. So how can we perceive the subtle body which is not destroyed when the gross body is destroyed? Another thing comes in the next verse is dreams, in which we may dream of something we have never seen or heard of. This happens. Prabhupada gives the example of dreaming of a golden mountain. He's never seen anywhere a golden mountain, but somehow he has seen gold in a mountain and he gets a picture of gold mountain. Or in this life, he may have never even been to a mountain. Like if you live in Florida, there are no mountains in Florida. The highest place is like 300 feet high. No mountains. Not like, Himalayas, where it's so many 8,000 kilometers tall. Meters. So this dreaming is creating all these, but what are these impressions coming from previous body? It's not possible. This is very important to understand. It's not possible for anything to appear in the mind which not had been previously experienced in different bodies. So sometimes the people write the fiction stories and they're coming up with bizarre things, but somehow they're combining different things, experiences they may have had in previous life or in this life. And they're presenting that as some story, and people, oh, what an imagination, but actually based on real experiences. And of course, in the Kali Yuga, people are being born with so much bad karma, right? So much bad past, so they have so many wild things. So the mind is indicating the past and future bodies. The mental composition indicates one attainment of bodies in accordance with material nature. I know sometimes, I don't know if you've ever seen, I know sometimes when you're reading some news on the internet or something and they post up little stories for you to look at about this, that. And they would post up a picture showing, this is a picture of this man and this is a picture of the dog. And you look, and they look many similar features. They're looking too much similar. So what to speak, this is indicating his next life, he will get to be that dog and sit on the couch and, while the owner is out working hard all day. That will be the life. So these are the indications. And how is it that we can see something in a dream that's impossible? Like an ocean on top of a mountain, or stars during the day, or one's own body without a head. I don't know if any of you had that dream, having a picture of your body without your head. That would indeed be a little scary. So in the next verse, it's explained dreams are combinations of images. So again, this is relating to our homework. All these different images are coming. We've stored them up in our brain, in our mind. And the impossible things that are never experienced or heard of in this life actually have been experienced in different times and places and conditions in previous lives. And under some illusion, one is combining them all into some particular picture. And again, the example of the golden mountain and experience of gold and mountains. So this is what is the mind is doing. The mind is creating the dreams, but he's bringing all these experiences into the living entities' consciousness. So what is the mind doing? Again, we can see for our homework, the mind is a storehouse of thoughts, experiences, and desires, which appear in a particular sequence and in different combinations. Therefore, these images sometimes appear as things that were never seen or never heard before. And then, what is the devotee situation? Again, for our homework. A devotee avoids transmigration. A devotee absorbed in Krishna consciousness, Sattvika Nishta, can observe the cosmic manifestation exactly as the Lord does, just like seeing Rahu in the presence of the full moon. And then the example is given, like Mother Yashoda, by the grace of Krishna, looked in Krishna's mouth for the dirt and she saw all the universes. So by the Lord's grace, and this is very important, a Krishna conscious person can see all his dormant desires at one time, and these desires will no longer fructify into gross bodies. So now you must have a question, because we've just described what we're going to have to go through if you're not already going through it. Any comments, questions? Looks like Antaryami Balaram's getting ready to say something.
Yes, Prabhuji. I was just asking how much importance or analysis should we do to our dreams. Sometimes we have very, very weird dreams. So assuming that they are coming from the past life, in some past life, so should we just ignore them or maybe do something about them?
Well, definitely you don't want to act on them. That would be the wrong conclusion. Prabhupada explains in these purports that past karma is sometimes experienced for a devotee in dreams. Therefore, he doesn't actually have to take on a gross body and go through those sufferings. So, in one sense, it's good news. And in another sense, we should take it, I have to keep purifying my mind and senses so that whatever else is still there is not going to bring me into another body. So some of you, like Ananda Leela Mataji, are very fortunate to be living in the Holy Dham. So all experiences are connected with the Lord. But some of us have other experiences. We're not able to do that. So maybe Mother Ananda Leela could tell us about the great benefits of living in the Holy Dham.
Yes, there are a lot of benefits, but I'm not like fully up to that, stage yet. But yes, the opportunity is there, because from the time you wake up in the morning until the time you go to bed, all you see is devotees around, and the place where you work, where you serve, the people whom you look at, you talk to them. So it's everything is centered around Krishna. Nevertheless, there is even opportunity for anybody to get sidetracked and and try to look for something else. It's something like, like a mosquito is sitting on the body of a saint, and it has a close association. But then it's not availing to that. So it's a kind of losing the opportunity. So yes, staying in any dham, one has the full opportunity to be fully engaged and imbibe oneself in Krishna conscious activities, as Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in many of his purpose, and to be engaged in devotional service. But nevertheless, we also need to be very careful and not become complacent, that we take it for granted. Yes, it's been given to us. So yeah, I would say that fortune, I think even Rukmini or Sevani also has, she's been staying in Vrindavan. So yeah, um, I would say its life is quite different, and if you take the full opportunity, it can be fully devotional. Yeah.
So in being in the Dham, there's an opportunity to commit Dham aparad. That is there. But at the same time, especially for those of us who can only go on parikramas and visits, you can just focus in and say, this location, Lord Chaitanya personally appeared and he performed these leelas and these devotees were there, and what a sacred holy place this is, because these leelas are still going on, even
Yeah.
though we can't see them. And the residents of the Dham, not even just all ISKCON devotees, but all residents of the Dham are actually residents of Vaikuntha. So I'm sure that gets a little tough to see at moments, because there's still interaction, and sometimes it's not always pleasant. But this is the consciousness we want to cultivate. So for those who are getting the opportunity to visit the Holy Dham or live in the Holy Dham, we want to have that consciousness, absorbed in a Krishna consciousness that way. So let's go a little bit further. The bodily conception of I am this and I am that, the living entity, what does he do? He gets a chance to execute all his mental concoctions. Thus he gets another body. My duty is this, and therefore I shall do it. These are all mental impressions. Sometimes this is very prominently displayed by, people that are very expert in their sports or in acting, or politicians. They think, I am this person, I am this actor, or I am this expert athlete. And they get to identify too much with that. So there are many plans for making the body comfortable, and these plans are carried in the subtle body after destruction of the gross body. His plans take shape in the next life. So sometimes if one is not very wealthy, he may think, oh, if I just have so much money, then my life will be very comfortable. And because our great godbrother, Ambarish Prabhu, the great-grandson of Henry Ford, he lives in the area here where we live. And he's an old acquaintance of mine, a friend from, when Prabhupada was there with us. He was there in the Detroit temple when I joined, so I got to meet him very early on. But you think he would be very comfortable. He has enough money to fulfill all his desires. But actually, if you hear the story of his family life, his family members were not comfortable. They were suffering in different ways. And even he told me that it's difficult sometimes for him to come to the temple, because every time he comes to the temple, somebody comes in front of him and wants to borrow money or have him give them money for some plan, something they want, some project or some personal need. So can you imagine every time you go to visit a temple, somebody's harassing you with these desires, and it becomes very uncomfortable. You're coming to see the deities, to chant in the kirtan and hear the class, and somebody's begging money from you. So there's no comfortable situation. When the mind is enjoined with a particular sense, it immediately becomes manifest in a certain way. So here we have the mind, and it's got something going on, and then it joins with a sense, one of the senses. So the mind of a person in Krishna consciousness also acts in a similar way. The tongue chants Hare Krishna, and Satvika Vikara, a transformation of the mental condition in goodness or sometimes in transcendental ecstasy occurs. And I'm sure from the look on Ananda Leela's face, it's very confusing what we're talking about. So here we'll actually go back to the we'll go back to the question I posted in the chat room earlier before the homework. So look it up. It says, give examples of how the mind transforms actions on the senses. Example, anger transforms speech into shouting, and how devotional service using the mind transforms the senses. Now, those of you who are, I think that should be all of you, who've taken the Bhakti Shastri should be very immediately be remembering how this is described in the Nectar of Devotion. How the different experiences, these Sattvika Vikar, are transforming in the senses. You know, in the speech, you'll suddenly start chanting and kirtan and be very exuberant, chanting about Hare Krishna. Or in the legs, you may start dancing. So please give some examples of how for a materialist, the things that are on his mind are being transformed into on the senses. Is that clear? If it's not clear, please let me know so we can clarify. Any volunteers here to give some expression here? What is going on for the non-devotee? He's getting something in the mind. It looks like some bewilderment may still be there. So the question, for example, well, we have the example of anger. So we gave the example of anger impacting the voice. How might the anger impact on the hands? Should be easy. Arvind, Charan, you want to say something? No? All right. Someone else? Daruk Krishna? How would it impact the hands, this anger? So apparently Rukmini thinks it's not clear. Can you elaborate?
Pratik, um, I just want to share my understanding for this. It's like, yes, it's not easy to, control the anger. But as we read in NOI and other books also, Prabhupada says that, yes, all the anartha except envy, all the anarthas even we can, Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, we can use in the service of Krishna. As Prabhupada gives the example of Hanuman, how he used that anger. And if somebody is blaspheming the devotees, or saying something wrong about the deities. So this can be used. My anger can be used there. So this
So I was just saying some automatic reaction. You're trying to have some planned activity. I'm just saying if there's anger in a conditioned soul, and Rasika Priya Chana says, one may start using the hands to beat someone. Yes, exactly. So there's anger, so then he comes in the hands and he wants to beat someone. If it comes in the feet, he may want to kick someone.
Mm.
If he comes in the voice, he will yell and like that. So the mind, the point here is that the mind is then projecting onto the senses. This is what we're talking. We're not trying to talk about how we're controlling only. We're just simply saying, how is the mind affecting the senses?
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay. Sorry. So, what I use, okay, I just tell my personal, what I used to feel whenever I used to feel angry or something, my hands and feet started, or I always started shivering. I used to started shivering, and my hands and feet, they are just like, they used to got freeze, extremely cold. I used to face like this when it's like when I used to feel so much anger. So this used to happen with me. So yes, when there is anger, so uh, yes, somebody goes and they drink water. The first thing, whenever I am angry, I'll just keep my mouth shut and just mm, go here and there. The best thing, if we can just, if I'm not able to do anything, and when there is anger, so behind is like, I am right, you are saying that is, you are not saying right, I am right, I'm not wrong. So just I just move from there for some time and associate with the like-minded people, or I can talk to somebody like this.
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to say how to control it precisely. We're just saying, what is the effect? So yes, it comes on the face. It comes in the body in different ways. In the face, you can see someone's angry. Maybe the face is turning red. You can see that expression. Even he doesn't say one word, you can see the anger. So this is, the senses are being affected by what's in the mind. And in the same way, when one is Krishna conscious, they also affect the senses. So many activities, like you may just want to start clapping and for kirtan because you're feeling very ecstatic, or you may sing very enthusiastically, dancing. So many things are there. Even the sense of taste. When we're feeling very Krishna conscious, then we taste some prasadam and we see how special this prasadam tastes. And it's not just food. In fact, even the non-devotees come to our Sunday feast and they say, you told me how to make this halava, and when I make it, it's not the same. And then we have to explain to them, yes, there's one thing missing. You didn't offer it to Krishna. So then the flavor that changes. So Manohar, We just says, even it affects our productivity in any of our endeavors. Yes, the status of the mind, whether it's anger or lust or some other expression, is affecting our ability to function. And then Priya Satyabhama says, a conditioned soul, when it gets affected by its senses, then it starts working towards it. It can be action or reaction depending on the situation. Yes, I think that's carrying it a next step, that what happens when the senses are acting in a certain way. But at the moment, we're just simply talking about the mind affecting the sense, being transmitted and expressed by the senses. Also reminds me of one story. Prabhupada, he visited a temple and he was in front of the deity, paid his obeisances. And as he is taking darshan of the deity, he turns to the devotee next to him, who is the pujari, and he says, is Krishna comfortable? And the devotee looked at him, like, how do I know? I don't know. Prabhupada said, no, you're serving the deity every day. So he is revealing to you in the mind if he's comfortable or not comfortable. So you can know, Krishna will reveal. Sometimes Krishna reveals very blatantly, openly. You all must know that story. In the beginning days in San Francisco, the second temple Srila Prabhupada opened, devotees were living in San Francisco, and they would every day, they would have feeding at lunch, like 150 hippies and visitors who come to the temple, because it was right there where all the hippies were living. And so they were cooking one day, and they cooked everything, and what they do is they would not use deity plates. It's very early days, so they didn't know about deity plates. They would put the whole pot of cooked food in front of the deity, close the curtain, ring the bell, say the prayers, and make an offering. So one day, they burned the rice. I mean, it was so bad you couldn't stand to smell it. But it was time to serve the prasadam, and the people were gathered, and they were waiting. So they were debating back and forth. Should we offer it or not? So one devotee, neophyte, not knowing too much, he said, well, we know Krishna can eat with his eyes, so he won't mind. He'll just look at it and accept it. So they put it on the altar, they rang the bells, closed the curtain, and while they were waiting some minutes, they suddenly heard a big crash, bang. So they immediately opened the curtains and looked, and there in front of Jagannath, the whole pot of rice was turned upside down on the floor. So Lord Jagannath had made it very clear he didn't accept it. Anyway, a little bit off the point, but I'm hoping you understand. So when we're suddenly experiencing something that was never experienced before, okay, we already covered this, then we may see something in the dreams we have never heard before. And the mind of a person, okay, we just discussed this. In a previous life, either as a demigod or an astronaut, we flew in the sky. Therefore, this impression is in the stockpile of the mind. So don't be surprised if somehow you dream of flying in the sky without an airplane, because in some previous life, you were either a demigod or an astronaut. Don't be shocked. A chain of continuation from one life to another, from previous lives to this life, and from bliss life to future lives. These are what's going on in the mind. And if we think of Krishna constantly in this life, then in our next life we will be transferred to Krishna Loka in Goloka Vrindavan. So this is what a devotee is doing with his mind. He's trying to think of Krishna and serve Krishna. And therefore all this chain of stockpile of impressions and reactions in the mind is being burned up. So the subtle body develops all kinds of thoughts and images from his because of his previous body. So things are coming, especially in our dreams, because of previous experiences. And as long as he is within the material atmosphere, he has a subtle vehicle in the form of the mind, which is a stockpile of all kinds of desires, material desires. Whatever we desire in this present body will be expressed in a future body. Thus, the mind is the source of different kinds of bodies. So again, we're seeing this same statement from a little different viewpoint, that the mind is just a stockpile of different desires, and the bodies are coming as a result. If the mind is purified by Krishna consciousness, one will naturally, in the future, get a body that is spiritual, full of Krishna consciousness. So we must teach people. Oh, I see, I'm getting up to this point. I think I'm going a little bit far. We must teach people. Yeah. So before we, excuse me. Sorry, okay. So we must teach people to absorb themselves in the service of the Lord, because that position is their natural position. So this is the activity of the devotee when he meets conditioned souls. He has to teach them how to become absorbed in the service of the Lord. When the mind is always above material conditioning, it is always liberated. So let's stop here. Any questions? Comments? Rukmini, is that your hand again coming up? Please speak.
Prabhuji, I'm sorry, the class exercise you gave, I want to ask regarding that. As our mind, as you know, few devotees also contributed, and everybody were contributing. When our mind says, when we are in anger, so it can be expressed, or something comes reaction or action by speech or by our face, like this. So in the next part you asked that, and how devotional service using the mind transforms to the senses. How devotional service using the mind transforms to the senses. Were you talking about the Ashtasattvic Vikar?
Yeah.
Round, falling of the
Yeah.
tear.
Explain what you're saying.
Okay, so we think about it, and sometime when we are in a kirtan, we like the kirtan. So any these vikars, so these they come in that level of bhav, but sometime so we are actually talking about these vikaras. in this
Yeah.
way. Okay, thanks.
These are our questions. When one is very advanced, then they become even more noticeable. There may be trembling, shivering in the body, hair standing on end. So many things that we've read in Nectar of Devotion. You read that? So there's many different experiences there as one becomes more advanced. But sometimes even a neophyte may experience. We see that people come and they join in the kirtan and they seem very happy for some period of time. But because of their conditioning, they can't not remain for very long. Another question? You're all very silent. It must be you understand everything.
Hare Krishna, Anand Leela Mataji has raised the hand. Prabhuji.
Oh, there's your hand. I see. It was disappearing in the picture. Please.
I have a question like if in an instance if when some because of anger if someone gets into that physical abuse or it could be said that the reason for physical abuse is anger.
Explain a little better. I'm not quite clear what the difference is.
My question is, can we say physical abuse, the reason for a physical abuse could be possibly anger?
Yes, although it's more complicated often. For example, if there's abuse of a child or a spouse, then perhaps there's some previous condition, previous reaction that he's experiencing. And we know as a devotee, of course, we're meant to control that. We don't want to express that kind of what you would call abuse. That's not acceptable for a devotee. So we want to address that action, of course, with a remedy, but the expression of it in the beginning, and I think I understand your question, is the anger in the mind, obviously, because when there's no anger, there will most likely not be any abuse. But the anger may be deep, so you may not see it other ways. It may all of a sudden come out. And then people have their own karma, you might say, or psychophysical nature. Just like if one was abused as a child, there is a great tendency to repeat that as an adult. So that's, of course, all combined with karma and different things that are there, but yeah, it's complicated. I mean, there's initially somewhere there's anger. That's the surface level description. Is your question deeper than that?
No, I mean it's not so deep. Yeah, just wanted to know that if this could be just one of the reason for that activity.
Of course. Yes. Yes. And again, if it's regular, then there's some kind of conditioning, some kind of reaction going on in that person that they have to deal with. So we know that in this lifetime, we have to come to the mode of goodness, right? And that takes practice. And sometimes people have particular problems with anger, with uncontrolled senses in different ways. You can probably make a list. They eat too much. They have too much lusty sexual desires. They have other propensities that are not devotional. So, intelligent person recognizes that and puts extra effort because this is something they haven't dealt with from a previous life, previous experience. They're still getting reactions. Just as much as like we say that if a person eats meat, then in the next life he will have to take birth as an animal and be killed. So human beings, they take birth and they have previous reactions they're getting. Maybe they used to suffer in certain ways and now they're expressing a reaction to that, or they cause some violence, some other problem, and now they're reacting. So there's reasons, and those should be discussed with a person who is qualified to be your counselor, your guide, if your guru is available. But as we discussed yesterday, gurus in ISKCON, some of them are so many disciples, and they have their counselors, right? So then you approach the counselor, which is more accessible, and you can have a ongoing relationship where you try to clear these situations. You clear up your past and move on. Is there any more that I didn't touch on? Looks like you're unsure. It's unfortunate in Kali Yuga, there are so many difficult situations. Difficult family life, difficult expressions, situations we're put in. Personally, at one time as a devotee, I had a job working in a company, and somehow or other they decided to put one man as my manager. And gradually I realized that the whole point of making him my manager was to make me so unhappy, so disturbed that I would quit. So he would threaten me, challenge me, frustrate me, abuse me verbally in so many ways. It was difficult until I went to a devotee who guided me a little better. And at that point, I spoke with one senior godbrother sannyasi, and he told me, just make sure every day you chant 16 good rounds and you go to Mangal Arti to serve the deities. Just do that. So I just focused on doing that, whatever else was happening, because the reactions were so much churning in me, I couldn't even sleep at night. I would be just like full of anxiety and tension. What's going to happen now? What's going to happen tomorrow? It was just, I knew something was coming because it was constant. And finally, one day they called me into the office after some months and they said, well, that's it. We've decided we're laying you off. You can no longer work here. And I was so peaceful about it. I said, thank you. And I shook their hand because that was the end of my reaction. No more suffering with that particular situation. But that strength to be very poised and tolerant, peaceful, came from sadhana, which I did very carefully because of good advice. So we do have personal issues to work through. There's no doubt everyone does. Some more serious than others. And we need someone that we can trust who's capable of guiding us to help us through those situations and to take the right response of surrendering to Krishna, what that means, surrendering to Krishna, depending on Krishna, taking shelter of Krishna. So we will be challenged in our lives in many ways, and we have to continuously learn, if you don't already know, how to take shelter of Krishna when the challenges come. And I'm sure all of you have had some challenge, and there may be more. And the big challenge will come if we make it there to old age and death. Because then everything we have will be taken away. And the only thing we'll have left, if we can take shelter, is Krishna. And that will make our lives successful. So in this way, life is a learning process, how to take shelter of Krishna again and again. And maybe one day we'll get like Queen Kunti and pray for calamities to happen to us again and again, so that we can immediately take shelter of Krishna. Anyone feeling like that now? They want to pray for more calamities? No one's praying. That's okay. But just know that the great saints, they show us is the whole example, like Bhishma saying, the Pandavas were so close to Krishna, and yet how many ways they suffered. Very extreme suffering. He was practically almost bewildered by it. Why these devotees of Krishna had to suffer so much. You remember that, right? It's described in the Bhagavatam, that Bhishma Dev's time of passing. Prabhupada discusses that. So devotees go on suffering, but they don't suffer like normal people, regular conditioned souls. They don't suffer. As they take shelter of Krishna, they're peaceful. And they just accept whatever is happening and go on. So, more questions? Okay, so let's take a break here. And after the break, we'll come back and go deep into understanding the mind and getting free from material entanglements. It's actually exciting. I found this section very interesting and exciting. It's like Krishna says, okay, you want to understand what's going on with your mind? Here's a microscope. You can study in detail. This is happening, that's happening. The psychologists, they put together all their theories. Oh, do this, that happened, this happened. Freud and all these other people, oh, this happened, that happened, and now you're like that. But they don't have any solution. The real solution is to keep Krishna always in our mind, and then we'll be purified and go back to God. Is that okay? So let's take a break. 15 minutes. I don't know if you need to chant Gayatri or anything else, personal things you need to take care of, and then we'll come back. Is that all right? Very good. Jai, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. Well, welcome back to everyone. I hope you're all ready. Continue on. So here, we've come to a new section. Now, in particular, I want to let me see. Okay. So hopefully everyone's back and ready to continue on with this class. So in this next section of the Bhagavatam 29th chapter, now we begin with seeing how beginning with the subtle body, how the identification is going on, and then how the subtle body is not destroyed. And we have an example of that. So false identification is due to the subtle body. This is where this aham mameti, I am such and such, or this is my duty. This is who I am. This is what I do. We talked about politicians, sports figures, movie stars. We can see very clearly this, the false identification. This mameti bhava. And the gross body exists as long as the subtle body, mind, intelligence, senses, sense objects, material reactions exist. So when the body is finished, that means one set of reactions is finished and another set is coming. Just like where you have a garden and it comes winter, one set of vegetables, they're finished, and we start planting to get ready for the next set to come up. So the gross bodies are created and destroyed thousands and thousands of times, while the subtle body remains. Similarly, while the gross body remains, there is destruction of the subtle body during deep sleep. Why can't we say this? Interesting question. Why can't we say that subtle body is destroyed? Because it's not. It's not actually destroyed. We know, for example, if you're in an auto accident and very serious, and then the person goes into a coma, then he appears to be alive, but no external consciousness. Or if an operation, a medical operation is being performed, then the patient is giving anesthesia and he loses all external awareness. The body appears to be there, but there's no functioning, indicating the senses, the mind and the senses are active. So when does one lose self-awareness? Supti, deep sleep. So there's different stages of consciousness, and one is sleep and one is deep sleep. So in a sense, this deep sleep is similar to what the soul experiences when this material universe is wrapped up. All the souls are then conserved within the body of Vishnu. but they're in this sleeping state. Another way that we lose self-consciousness is murcha, fainting, or upateshu, grief, or mrityu, death, or prajvarayo, high temperature fever. So these are all states that the experience on the gross body, and some, like death, the body is finished. In all the above states, the senses are inactive to different degrees, and thus one does not identify the self with the body. However, the subtle body does not cease to exist. So because someone goes into a coma, doesn't mean there's no more subtle body there. Something is going on, but there's no active observation of the sensual activities. We can't see that the senses are engaging with their objects because they're not. So another example is undeveloped senses. All the 10 senses in the mind are active in youth, but in the womb of the mother or in childhood, they remain covered just as the full moon is covered, is not visible on the dark moon night. So we can't see the moon on the dark nights, but we know it's still there. So similarly, childhood or before birth, the child's senses are there, but they're not active. And there's a note here, unless the senses of the gross body are developed, they will not act on the subtle body. Similarly, because of the absence of the desires of the subtle body, there may be no development in the gross body. Specifically here, the example is given, like we talk about children being innocent, right? Because they're not aware of all the facets of life. And specifically, they have no awareness of lust and sex. That development hasn't occurred. The senses are not active. They're not present at that time. So does that mean there's no senses then? No. Similarly, the mind cannot act through those senses because they're not developed. The mind is not present? No, the mind is still present, but the senses are inactive. So we'll see more of that in a few minutes. Inactive senses do not indicate a liberated state. Very important. So like the child is innocent, yes, but he's not liberated. One enjoys sense objects in a dream, though the senses are not present. We all had experience, I think, of that. We have some dream, something's happening with us in the dream. We think we're experiencing, but there's really no sense objects there. It's all an imagination. Like maybe you'll dream you're having celebration of your birthday party and you're having your birthday cake, but there's no cake. It's all in the mind. It's all imagination. So similarly, samsara does not cease for a person who is attached to sense objects but not in contact with them, like during childhood, undeveloped senses, or in deep sleep, inactive senses. So these are different phases where the senses are not active, undeveloped, or inactive. But that doesn't mean there's a lack of attachment to the sense objects. Because as soon as the sense object is there, and then immediately there's an attraction. We can see that as a boy leaves boyhood and enters into teenage life, then suddenly senses are active. So what is this definition of the subtle body? What is the subtle body? It's the form which consists of the 5 pranas and the 3 gunas, is furnished with the 16 transformations, 10 senses, 5 sense objects, and the mind, which is endowed with a consciousness called the subtle body. So this is, you put together this whole package of 16 items, and that is the subtle body. And this subtle body goes with us from one life, one body to the next body. So the transmigration of the soul, the subtle body, by the subtle body, the jiva accepts a new gross body and gives up the current one and experiences joy, lamentation, fear, grief, and happiness. Analogy to explain transmigration of the soul. So the soul is transmigrating, moving from one gross body to another, but he still is experiencing all these things in each life. So another example, like in the picture you see, the caterpillar. He's on a leaf, and this is particularly very vivid for gardeners. You can see the caterpillar, he's like, how does he get from one place to another? He's on one leaf, he reaches out and somehow captures the next leaf. And when he's solid on it, he transfers over to the new leaf. And this way he moves. But he doesn't leave the previous one until he's fully grasped the next one. So the jiva does not give up his previous identity even while dying, or until he has accepted another body by firmly holding on to his karmas. Thus the mind, the reservoir of all desires, is the cause of repeated birth. So here, the man is attached to his body up until the point of death, when at that point he's forced to transfer into a new body, and then he gives up all his memories, attachments to the previous body. So as long as the mind, as there exists the subtle body, the gross body exists as well. Now we can say it goes at the time of death, it's conserved, but it will appear. When one transfers to the spiritual world, actions and reactions of both the gross and subtle bodies no longer bother the spirit soul. Very interesting way of describing this transfer to the spiritual world. The gross and subtle bodies are not bothering him anymore. He's free now to live without them and free from all their miseries and suffering. In deep sleep, or when he has fainted, he forgets his gross body. That's why they do this for the operations. They put one in anesthetic, and he makes him forget his gross body. Otherwise, we would not be able to tolerate all the pain of these operations. Gradually, we train ourselves to act in terms of the spiritual body, and then the actions and reactions of the gross and subtle bodies will cease. So we can see this in an example is given by our great Acharya Raghunath Das Goswami. He has a book, Vilap Kush Manjali, where he gives a detailed description of activities he's experiencing in his spiritual body, even while the gross material body still exists. So while conscious in the gross body, He's performing physical acts, chanting Hare Krishna, paying obeisances, all devotional acts. And while he's in meditation, deep awareness of the spiritual body, then he's completely oblivious to the gross and subtle bodies. And he's fully identified in his position as the servant of Shrimati Radharani, Rati Manjari. And in that position, he has experienced tremendous ecstasies and experiencing everything that's going on in his service. In the womb or in boyhood state, the sense organs and the mind remain covered. So again, we're repeating that when the senses are not active in the womb or in boyhood state. The senses only become active when the gross body and the subtle body are developed. Because the absence of desires in the subtle body, there may be no development in the gross body. When the living entity dreams, the sense objects are not actually present. However, because one is associated with the sense objects, they become manifest. Okay. I just check and see if anyone has any questions, comments here. We're getting into very important areas of understanding the mind and consciousness and the senses and how they're active in the body and how he's transferring from one body to the next. These are, in one sense, a little technical, but they're very helpful. Very helpful to understand what the conditioned soul, or as in Bari, he wants to know what is happening to him and what he can do about it. So here, by becoming absorbed in Krishna consciousness, these dreams and other objects do not become present. As long as there exists a subtle body, the gross body exists as well. So the living entity needs a gross body to experience the senses. If he doesn't have a gross body, what is that called? Anyone can say?
Ghost.
Who?
She said ghost.
Ghost.
Ghost, yes. And what is the nature of a ghost? He is frustrated because he has no senses. So therefore, he tries to enter into some other body where he can experience through their senses. In that case, the person becomes ghostly haunted. So such people have to have weak control over their mind that allows another entity to enter in and take control over the body. So the living entity, he's in the heart. And he is being agitated by the three modes of nature. All these are churning the reactions to all his desires and karma. And then the subtle body of the living entity consists of the mind, the sense objects, the five senses that acquire knowledge, and the five senses for acting in the material condition. They all become possible. So here we have the living entity residing in the heart, and the three modes are there, and then the subtle body can become active in that environment. By virtue of the processes of the subtle body, the living entity develops and gives up gross bodies. He transmigrates from one body to another. So again, this goes back to our homework. How the transmigrating from one body to another. giving up one gross body to accept another. These are all due to processes of the subtle body. Devotional service, now we're stepping away from the conditioned soul viewpoint, and devotional service means always thinking of Krishna, by which one can revert to his original spiritual existence. So there's an example given in the Nectar of Devotion. You may remember it, of a person who was absorbed in thinking of Krishna in his spirit subtle body, but he's not performing any service with his gross body. But Krishna takes it all as spiritual. Can you remember that story?
Yes, Prabhuji.
And who was that?
That Brahmana who was preparing sweet rice for the Lord and his finger got burned.
Yes. And when he was offering, then what happened? Krishna came immediately to see his devotee. So, because he was there absorbing the mind, it had a great impact on his spiritual consciousness and his spiritual body, his spiritual development. So this is an indication for us what it means to think of Krishna. And according to your service, you may be thinking how to serve Krishna better in that service. This is also on the spiritual platform. So the living entity must use the mind to go to Goloka Vrindavan. The living entity must capture another body by giving up the one he has. And because the mind is a reservoir of all, this is because the mind is a reservoir of all kinds of desires. The mind's got all these desires. He needs to capture a new body to act on those desires. We can see as a person grows old and enters into the last stages of life, the body is unsuitable for most activities. So then the living entity said, all right, enough, give up this one, I'm ready to leave. And he goes to a new situation. But it is the mind that is the prime cause of this whole transfer. According to one's mind, different bodies are generated. So he may think, oh, I will go here, I will go there, but actually, according to the actions, reactions, and desires he has, it's already fixed. The Krishna conscious movement is the greatest boon for human society because it is teaching everyone to think always of Krishna by executing devotional service. So when we're outreaching to people, which I hope some of you are, we're trying to benedict them with a chance to not continue in the cycle of samsara. We're there to connect them, begin to learn and teach them how to execute devotional service. Taking a book and reading about Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna, taking some prasadam, all spiritual devotional activities, which they may or may not understand. It doesn't matter, still it will act. After the mind is completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness, one can enter the planet known as Goloka Vrindavan. So again, Raghunath Das Goswami, he indicates, he gets so absorbed that he no longer recalls this material body. And he is just thinking that I want to continue serving Srimati Radharani and Krishna without any sensation. He's just absorbed in that service so deeply that practically his absorption is so deep that he is practically already in Goloka Vrindavan. So the mind is the cause of such an exalted position. So again, our homework, how to absorb our mind and go to Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan, instead of another material body. what we have to do for the mind, what we have to feed the mind. Any question here? This is kind of esoteric, you might say. And that looks like Rukmini. She's always asking questions. This is a great student.
Prabhuji, when one leaves the body, gross body, so as we were discussing upon on caterpillar, so it just holds and immediately transfer to the another body, or does it take some time? Like because we perform some rituals, so it
Becomes a
takes
what?
I don't know about abroad, but in India, we perform some rituals. Some ritual,
Ritual.
yeah, some rituals
Yeah.
for 4 days, for 13 days. And in NOD also, it is mentioned that the person is in grief, so he should not do deity worship. If the person is in, if somebody leaves the body in the home, so because of emotions and all, if one is not at that level, so he should do. So my question is that does it suppose if I leave this body and if I take another body, will I get any time, or how will it be? Like immediately I get the another body, or will there be a time of 4 days or 13 days or something to get another body?
So are you like worried that you'll have time to pack your things and go to the new body?
I want to go to Golok Vrindavan, but I know I'm not eligible.
Yeah, we'll come to the Goloka Vrindavan part a little further, but there can be. Prabhupada said that sometimes the living entity, he likes to come to observe his funeral and see which friends have come to see me in my departure. He may be still attached to the gross body. He may be overly attached to his friends or relatives, and he may try to stay for a little longer. But it won't be very long. And then when the next body is ready, when the egg is fertilized, he must go. The room is ready. You have to move in. So there could be some delay. And sometimes if Prabhupada writes, if one is too much attached, he may remain as a ghost for some time. So that way he doesn't want to leave. He thinks he can stay, but he has to stay without a body for some time. That's another way. Krishna's got every angle covered. Whatever way you want to go, whatever may happen, Krishna's got some arrangement for you. There's no loopholes. So, any other questions?
Hare Krishna, please, Jonathan.
Sure,
I believe
please.
Anandila Mataji has.
Let's hear it.
Hare Krishna,
What do you
please,
got?
Jonathan.
Wait, we got two people. Which one? Amarendra, why don't you go first because you're inquiring. We're ready. Did you freeze? All right, looks like Amarendra's got some issue. Maybe Ananda Lili. Oh wait, hold on. Go ahead.
Mataji, sorry, Prabhuji, I'm asking that is anywhere it's exactly mentioned that how much time it takes to take a new body, Prabhuji? Because we see in different religion that it's take 30 days or I have read in Garud Puran Prabhuji that there are three kinds of pind arpan, khorsi, madhyam khorsi, uttam khorsi pind. Then after the pretatma or jiva takes the next body, and we have also read Prabhuji that in the next moment we take new body. Then is there anywhere mentioned Prabhuji that exactly how much time it takes to take a new body?
Well, my understanding is that there's different options that could happen, different choices depending on the situation. But generally, after the living entity leaves the body, the gross body, there's a funeral, and immediately they put the body on the fire, right? So he's no longer, that body is there that he can be attached to, is gone. That's to encourage him to go on. Don't stay. Go.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And other rituals are there also to encourage and help him prepare to take that next step, whatever it may be. How exactly it works may vary from individual to individual. I can't say. I don't have enough knowledge, and I don't know where it is explained. But obviously it does vary. Different people may have slightly different experiences according to their desires and level of attachment. Generally, we find, my observation is that most people, at the time of death, they can see their body as useless and they're ready to move on. If they were to try and stay in that body, there would be intense suffering, intolerable suffering. So then they say, okay, I'm going. That's it. I don't want to suffer anymore. I don't know, that may not answer your question, but that's maybe about the best I can say. Ananda Leela?
My question is, I think it's 2 or 3 slides back. There was a sentence, and
This
I
one?
want
No.
to know that what is the this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. The second one from down. What is the connection between the senses, mind, and desires?
Well, desires are stored in the subtle body. And as we did in our little exercise, the senses are then influenced by the mind to act when there's an opportunity. Does that help? Is there more?
Can you repeat what you said?
I said the desires are stored in the mind,
Mm-hmm.
and the senses, when they're active, then the mind influences them to act.
So basically, mind is like the common factor between
Yes,
the senses and the desires.
mind holds the desires.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reservoir. We
Okay.
probably don't want to see what all those desires were. All the different memories also, and they may be there. What we want to desire, this situation, that situation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is that good?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So Here we are. Okay, let me just check one thing. So right here, I was going to ask you to stop and right here, with the help of Rukmini Mataji, to break into groups of two, and there's a topic that you should discuss, and I will put that here in the chat so that you can see it. So break in groups of two, and I want you to define your audience, your group, like, for example, university students or some other group, and how you would teach them to engage their mind in Krishna consciousness, like teaching them a vegetarian cooking class or engage them in a kirtan, so many different ways. So think of an audience a group that you could now come in contact with, and how you would help them engage their minds in Krishna. So each group come up with one scenario and how they would engage. What would be the methods? You can have multiple methods, but at least one to engage their mind in Krishna. Is that clear? Any questions? Ananda Leela, do you understand? Okay. Anyone who doesn't understand what we're doing? So Rukmini will break you into little groups of two, and you will discuss with each other and come up with we'll give you about 10 minutes. Is there anything we have to do, Rukmini, to allow them to talk and share their ideas? You just put
Yeah.
them in the group and they unmute themselves and they talk.
Yes, yes. They just join the group and they can start having talk.
So one person should probably take some notes so that you can come back and present it to the class. So go ahead, start now, and take 10 minutes. Okay? Can you do that, Rukmini? Break them all out?
Yes, yes, Prabhu.
So you're giving option to join, everyone joining, yes. Yeah. Jai Kumari and Rasika Priya, you have to join.
Rajiv, would you also like to join in any of the group, any of the room, or
Can I go back and forth?
no,
Are you in a group? You're not in a group.
So, I just want your permission. Shall I go in any of the group? Shall I also join?
Yeah, you can go in some group.
Okay.
But please post a reminder to Jai Kumari to join. Otherwise, why don't you join? Who's in the group with her so that at least they have some Priya Satyabhama or what? She may not be at her computer or something.
Yeah,
There
she's
she
joined. Yes, yes.
All right. Go ahead. You join one group and then I can join.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, we have ended all the rooms. So they would join in just next 30 seconds. Everybody will join. Okay, they all have joined. All have joined. Yes, Prabhuji.
So, who is the leader of the first group with Amarendra that can tell us what your conclusions are?
Amarendra Prabhu, please, you would like to present?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dana Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in our group, Prabhuji, we have discussed and we have chosen the audience. First, we have audience, a youth, Prabhuji. Youth in which specific male youth. So, first we have done all audience analysis that which type of audience used to come in our temple or whom we are going to cater. So there are some from different backgrounds, Prabhuji. So we are having 5 backgrounds. Some are from science background, some are from arts background, some are from uneducated background, some are from commerce, and some are from job or business background. So there are 5 or 6 type of audience used to come in our temple or nearby us. So we have first Prabhuji will understand, will invite them in our temple and we join them in different classes or Bhakti Vriksha classes or device classes or in Prerna Youth Festival or in Positive Thinker classes. Then we'll do project camp, and in camp we see that which boy is having which type of nature. Then according to his nature or interest, we engage them in services project. As some is from science background and very technical boy technical background, so we used to we should give them service like app design, app for temple, app application, web application for youth forum, or web designing, website designing, or run the website of temple or youth forum websites, or such type of seva. And we the old students, some are from very educated and they interest in the reading Prabhupada book, so we can engage their interest in first reading Prabhupada books, solving some questions on the level of Prabhupada books. Then we engage in teachings. So old students, they used to teach the new students, Prabhuji. In this way they engage in Krishna's service. And some are from not very educated background, so we engage them in different physical seva, because we are having 2 type of seva project. First is 2 type of seva member, FTM member and CTM member. FTM means facilitation team member, CTM is coordination team member. So we engage some in class setups, that please put the chairs there, put the projectors, put the everything, mic or mic setup, garlands or everything. As Haridas Rukmani Hariswani Mataji is doing here, class setup, Zoom setup, YouTube live setup, everything for us. So we engage some devotees in this service, or some are very interested in kirtan projects. So we engage their propensity to kirtan, playing mirdanga, playing kartal, dancing in kirtan. So engage them in kirtan seva. And some is very nice, means not introvert type of boy, and he's means from that background, Delhi background. So we engage them in calling seva, inviting. So we are having 3 type of calling: invitation calling, cultivation calling, reminder calling. We engage them in calling seva. and some are from very expert type of manager. They are having managing quality, so we engage them in camp coordination, registration camp, first do registration of camp and finalize where we'll go, how we'll go, how the prasadam will serve in train or location, everything. And fourth one is someone is expert in means Baniya business class of, so we engage in book decision. And some devotees, they are very expert in book distribution. And in Delhi Proji, our spiritual master is Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he very much emphasize on book distribution. So we teach in the youth forum only that how to distribute book, and we train them. We go with them personally, and we train them that, oh, this matlab, car is coming, how to approach the car, how to approach on soaps. So we teach them, and they used to do this service. And some we can engage in deity worship, and some is internet promotion. Like they because nowadays Proji youth, most of the youth are on, comes on online platform. So we engage in youth matlab, YouTube promotion, Instagram promotion, Facebook promotion. So they promote our temple, they run our YouTube channels, or FB or Insta channels वगैरह. Like that we can engage them or in Krishna service. Proji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That is very thorough. I think no one would escape your net of Krishna consciousness. You will capture all the conditioned souls that way. Very nice. Thank you. And the group number 2, Ananda Leela, or whoever is taking the notes, wants to present.
Yeah, we discussed actually a couple of different groups. The first one which we discussed was ladies, and we were discussing that how ladies can be engaged, Matajis, usually, and engaging them in the cooking service, and also since they are little artistic usually, so then they could be engaged in teaching them how to make jewelries and sewing and something to do with the outfits of the deities and garland making. And also one devotee was mentioning that if the seems that works out in their yatra, that the Mataji is giving Bhagavatam class regularly on online, and that's how she has cultivated a lot of other ladies, and that has brought more into Krishna devotees into more Krishna consciousness, and that gives the opportunity to read more and be engaged accordingly. And also one broader aspect which was brought out was if when they are trained to see the other family members as a part and parcel of Krishna, so then when they are serving that respective family members, they're taking that as the servants of the Lord, and in that way the whole family centered around Krishna, being Krishna conscious, and many conflicts which usually arises in a family life, that could be avoided when one thinks the other person as the part and parcel of Krishna. And the other two groups which oh yeah, and for the ladies, the other things that were discussed were they could be engaged in singing and dancing for Krishna, and also like they train their kids in Krishna consciousness. And then the other two groups which were discussed were writers, like someone who is into writing, then they could be given the opportunity to write in the magazines or any of our journals, so that inspires that kind of people to engage their service accordingly. And another thing which was discussed was sales and marketing. Somebody is into sales and marketing person, then he could be doing book distribution, or could be put somewhere in the sales section in a temple, and that person could help the temple in that respective way, how to bring out the sales and marketing aspect. Like nowadays we are actually selling a lot of stuff in our temples and centers, so that could help promote in it in many ways, because people don't join in different ways, not just book distribution. Sometimes they just buy something small from us, like from our gift shop, a small DD or small anything, even a keychain or something, and that brings them closer to Krishna. So that was the discussion. Prabhu, you're muted.
So in your discussion, is there what would you say would be the scope for ladies who don't like to be put in the traditional things like cooking and decorating and cleaning? There may be some, or that doesn't happen in India?
Well, there could be some. Not everybody wants to be in the kitchen and cook. So depending on what their propensities are, if they are into writing, or if they are into, say, photography, they can be engaged there.
Okay. I could ask one specific help. Now it's your turn to help me. That what if one of the ladies likes very much to climb mountains?
Probably she can still do that, and then put her things as how you say, her adventurous story or her adventurous trip, and share that with others. And what was in the end that person that she received, or that she got by doing that respective mountaineering, or whatever that could be. And that could be shared as in Krishna consciousness, if that brings her closer to Krishna, doing that. Because ultimately, I was reading this book, Meditations of Krishna by Urmila Devi Mataji, where she has taken all the different aspects around, in the material world, the sun, the earth, and anything that you see that could be connected to Krishna. So if one could want to go, mountaineering, then why not? That is also a representation of Krishna. And yeah, I feel I don't see any harm in that.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. I think now it's time to get back. Let me see what I have to do. I think I have to go back to share again, is it? Maybe. What is it? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that, come on. Success. Let me just sign this. So now our section, I hope that whole discussion was very helpful, trying to help others, that this is the point. Prabhupada said we're teaching others how to engage their minds in serving Krishna so that they can become purified and become devotees. How the mind is the cause of samsara. So the mind stores up desires for sense enjoyment, and then the living entity performs material activities under ignorance, not understanding who he is and that he is Nitya Krishna Das. So the cause of samsara, thinking of sense gratification, one performs material activities under ignorance and is entrapped in the bondage of karma. So we can see this even in a very simple way, that every being needs to eat, right? So we all need to eat. But instead of just thinking of eating And then eating with no restriction, no regulation. If a person eats food offered to Krishna, then that ignorance, that bondage is removed. Otherwise, we know that these senses become a network of paths to repeated birth and death. So therefore, worship the Lord. To counteract the ignorance, He is the creator, maintainer, destroyer, and controller of the universe. So we may not see that. We tend to be micro-focused in our day-to-day activities, what is right here in front of me. But Krishna ultimately is the background. He's created it all. Unimaginable detail. He's created this whole material world. And not only that, he maintains it, he keeps it going somehow or other. Man is good at trying to destroy, but Krishna is maintaining. And when Krishna wants, he can destroy, and he is always in control. Even though people try to think there's no God in control, they have theories like, God created the universe and then he lost control. No, he's always in control. So, knowing this, worship Krishna. So now, what was the result of King Prachinabhari? Narada enlightened him and said, okay, I'm leaving, I'm going to Siddhaloka, which is a planet like a subsidiary of Brahmaloka. So then Prachinabhari, he said to Prachinabhari, you want to come? So Prachinabhari said, all right, here, my dear ministers, my sons are out. Here's my order, protect the citizens. And immediately, without seeing his sons, he left and went to Kapila Ashram, we know Kapila Dev, and performed austerities, meditation, devotional service. So he took Narada's order very seriously and immediately acted on it, not waiting 1 second. And so this was the sign of a great personality, that he can understand the truth and immediately act. In Kali Yuga, we understand the truth and it takes some time for us to act. Not unusual. So when Prachinabhari was induced by Narada to leave home and take the devotional service, even the Prachetas had returned home from their austerity, but he wasn't going to spend time worrying about that. He was off to prepare for going back to Godhead. And what was his perfection? He is being free from material association and constantly engaged in eternal loving service of the Lord. So in this way, he attained a spiritual position qualitatively equal to that of the Lord. So he transformed his life, his consciousness, his mind and subtle body, especially, to the spiritual platform. And therefore, he was eligible. No more material coverings of ignorance on the intelligence, on the soul. And then he was ready immediately to be transferred. So some words are given there about the Palashruti. These are encouragements for us that this story liberates one from the subtle body. So now you're all liberated. Good news. Which sanctifies the material world to discuss this. It purifies the jiva's heart and liberates him from all bondage. And it will elevate him to the spiritual world, relieve him of the bodily conception, and clear his doubts about the next life. So in detail, as long as we desire material sense gratification, we create material activities. We create another series of material activities. And so we are trapped, or karma bandha, the reactionary forces take over. And to be enlightened in perfect knowledge, one should always engage himself in devotional service. So to actually understand what's going on, please forgive my sort of deviation, but there was a a movie many years ago put out in the West here, and it was called Matrix. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it was a science fiction kind of movie. But what it was is the person somehow or other became aware that there's an alternative understanding of what's going on in the world. And it wasn't just going through the normal life and having family and kids and repeating on and on, but there was some higher level of consciousness that was possible. And he was given a choice, and he took it to go to that higher level of consciousness, to see things and act on a different level. So the connection is that we should also be ready to engage ourselves in devotional service to get free from this trap, this repetitive trap of karma bandhana. By Krishna consciousness, we can understand that not only Krishna and the cosmic manifestation, but also our constitutional position. So this is very interesting, because when one becomes Krishna conscious, he understands Krishna, but he also understands the cosmic manifestation, what's going on there, and who he is. So Narada invited Prachinabhari to Siddhaloka, and the king immediately left his orders for his sons, and he went to perform his austerities. One who is struggling in this material world against Maya, he is a hero, the real hero. And one who is sober enough to understand his position is Dhira, very sober. So in the material world, people define sober person, hero, but this is the real definition according to the Bhagavatam. A soul wants to imitate the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is put into this dreamland of the material world. And that is interesting to just see that we are living in a dream. So if one associates with Narada, he is liberated from this dreamland of material creation. So it's a dream. We, in a sense, created or required this dream. And Krishna is waiting. He says, okay, when are you going to wake up? When are you going to want to see the real picture that I am the Supreme Person and you are my servant? And that is how you'll be happy. You want to pretend to be me? You want to pretend I don't exist? There's a place you can dream about it. It's not really true, but you can dream about it. And then you will suffer. So Krishna is giving that opportunity, and we have to take advantage. So let me just check. Okay. So benedictions. Here's one benediction. One who relates this transcendental narration will be liberated from all material bondage and will no longer have to wander within this material world. So, if you tell this story to others, you will be liberated. The more we talk of Krishna and think of Krishna and preach for Krishna, the more we become purified. This means we no longer have to accept a hallucinatory, gross and subtle body, but instead attain our spiritual identity. Very powerful. The more we talk about Krishna, think of Krishna, preach for Krishna. Prabhupada's urging us, telling us, don't just keep this knowledge for you, give it, share it out. And when one understands spiritual life, his attraction for the opposite sex is completely vanquished. Thus the hard knot within the heart is severed. If one understands the story of King Puranjan and understands how by sexual attraction Puranjan became a female in his next life, he will also understand the process of transmigration. Important. Because Prachinabhari wanted to understand how this transmigration is occurring and what is the symptoms, and so we've gone through all that. If one realizes he is an eternal servant of Krishna but does not preach, his realization is imperfect. That is a deep statement to consider. So that will be the last section for today. Now we have one more discussion. And it would be nice if everyone could participate, because I really want to hear how you are understanding and utilizing this. So here's the question. Pop it in the chat room. How will you implement talking about Krishna so you will be blessed to go back to Godhead? And I would like everyone to take time and make a statement. So unmute yourself, raise your hand, and then unmute yourself, and then tell us how will you implement these ideas that you've given as benedictions to talk about Krishna and go back to Godhead. So who would like to begin the discussion? Ras Raman Krishna?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay, who's speaking? I don't see it.
Yes, Prabhuji. Rasraman Krishnas.
Oh, Antyarami? Okay, Rasa Raman, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, as far as my opinion is concerned, Prabhuji, I will try to distribute the Srila Prabhupada books, especially Bhagavad Gita, this month, and through that distribution of Bhagavad Gita, definitely I will be able to talk about Krishna and help others to uh, hear about Krishna and think of Krishna.
And
Thank
when
you,
you
Prabhuji.
give them a Bhagavad Gita, what will you tell them?
Sorry, Prabhuji.
When you give them the Bhagavad Gita, what will you tell them?
Uh,
That if you read this book, you
yeah,
will learn how to be free from all miseries and samsara, and be
exactly.
completely purified.
Yes, Prabhuji.
No more suffering. Anjayami Balaram, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, my idea was that whenever we will or I will meet with my devotee friends or will go to the temple to have darshan or something like that, then I will try to talk about what I have read in the past few days or last night, and what they have read or been reading in these days. So by this, I would try to avoid Prajalpa and would try to talk about Krishna.
And you can tell them the allegory about the deer.
Yeah. Yes. Sure.
Very good. Who else would like to speak something? Amarendra, are you still there?
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, this month is Bhagavad Gita distribution month, Prabhuji. So whole month, Prabhuji, our seva is from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on the road. Prabhuji, the book distribution, one-to-one book distribution. So, and we ask them, please read this book regularly. And Prabhuji, I also read book regularly, Prabhuji, so that first of all, Prabhuji, these books are for me. Then it's for everyone. So I also read daily, and I give more and more distribute books, Prabhuji, and train the devotees, new devotees or new brahmachari also, that please distribute more and more book, especially in this week month, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Very nice. I
Hare
know.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Go ahead.
Prabhuji, my opinion, I personally will like to uh, tell new people's about I mean, if I put into into a discussion with them, whom I don't know even, and like in buses, and we travel every day, and when we go to universities and etc. I will try to hold them. I mean, and put into a discussion, and then will I ask them. I will tell them about. I mean, if they are Hindu, if I will then tell them, okay, do you know how much Krishna loves us, and what I mean, then I will tell them some pastimes of Krishna. Then I will say, ask them, what are we doing for that? I mean, he loves us so much, and all and all. I will try to do that. I mean, I practice this, and I love this doing. Love doing this.
So I am a little concerned. What will you? Are you speaking to Muslims, and what will they say? Do you know Krishna? I guess they may say
No,
yes.
not obviously not Muslims, Hindus, non-Muslims, obviously Hindus. I live in Pakistan, so there are not much, I mean, Hindus
Yeah.
around us. But yes, there are our matlab, our colleagues where we study, they are Hindus. So I try to, mm, I try to discuss these things to them, and especially in my university buses and all. Whenever completely different people sit around beside us, and I just try to talk to them. And first of all, I just ask their name. What is your name? And you're very pretty. And I mean, like I start with this, and when I come to know that by name, we come to know what religion and from which they belong now. So if they tell puja something, any Hindu name, so I just start talking about Krishna. If they tell some Muslim name, obviously I don't continue, and I just leave it.
I
This is
might
how
need
I
your
try to do something.
help because I have
Yeah.
I lead a group of students at the university here in Florida, and it's a Bhakti Yoga club, and the president is a young boy from Pakistan. And sometimes I'm not sure I can connect with him real well. But maybe I could get some help from you. If you can tell me,
How?
send me your
I
email. And then,
okay. Where would I send you? I will
you could
send
put
it to
it to
Rukmani
me
Hari
here.
Savnimatri or in
Uh,
chat.
yeah, in the chat you could send if you like.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Priya Satyabhama Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. So, what has happened with me practically, I can share that. So, when we go out or when we meet people, or you get around with friends also or something. So, since they all know that okay, we go to the temple and we do this, they often end up asking, "Acha, aap karte kya? What do you do in the temple? What exactly happens?" So then you can talk about that, and then you end up actually talking about Krishna in one way or another. Maybe you can talk about the deities, you can talk about various pastimes, or you can talk about "Acha, what's going on in your class." So that ways, you actually eventually end up talking about Krishna. That has happened with me a number of times. So this is one way, I get to talking about Krishna with my friends, or non-devotee people that I have to interact with. Maybe the office ones, or my son's friends, parents, something like that.
That's good. And you might tell him the analogy of the deer.
Yes, Prabhuji.
People like to hear stories. And once they're hearing stories, then they're attentive. Okay, Rukmini, you're waiting. Please tell us.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I'm just gonna start few sessions of NOD. So by this, we can discuss about Krishna. We can get into nectar of devotion. We can go more into that what Rupa Goswami has given us about Rupa Goswami. So this is like, I'm just, you please bless me that I may be able to do.
Sure. Now, which group is this you're talking to?
So these are some sessions of Bhakti Shastri.
Oh, well, Shastri. Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Begging your
Did-
blessings, friends.
You're welcome. Did anyone else get missed? Did we do,
Hare Krishna, Ananda Mataji.
okay.
So, I don't know what to say
That's the
because
question. What will you say?
um, let me read the question again. Talking about Krishna. Well, I think that's what I've been doing here when I'm teaching. But one thing that would be worth adding to that thing is uh, to talk with to when I'm teaching, it should be with more um, emphasis, and the impact I feel comes only when one is living by that. So the inner thing would be to put the deep Krishna conscious aspect into life when performing devotional service, because I feel when one is fully engaged nicely in Krishna consciousness in service, then Krishna gives helps to understand that knowledge what has been he has said that in the scriptures. And yes, uh, talking more about Krishna with more uh, emphasis and with more that's why I'm taking this course, because that kind of backs up yet yes, like what we have been teaching, what we have been telling people around, and uh, what we have been preaching them. It is not something that is coming from my own whims. It is being supported by the scriptures. So that's what I would have to say here. And I think that is more purifying.
Okay, good. Did we miss anyone here? Rukmini?
Miss Grace, Rasipriya Sham Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. I personally, when I talk to people, you come across most people, they are going through some phase in their life. Either they are suffering or they are looking for some success. So everything, in fact, can be connected to Krishna. When we talk to these people, an end to suffering also means uh, taking shelter of Krishna. Looking for success also means taking shelter of Krishna. So, in a way, we can connect everything with Krishna, and how these people can benefit by reading Prabhupada books, by taking shelter of Krishna.
Yes, we actually have in our hands the most secret, powerful remedy. And it's selfish not to give it out. And are we missing anyone? Gita, Krishna, did you speak already? I don't remember.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I'd like to, create a group where we can say, read together Prabhupada's books like a book on Krishna or Bhagavad Gita and discuss mutually so that, it benefits everybody.
Okay. I hope you can find the group. Any help you need, let me know. I can maybe help something. I don't know. So this is the essence. We want to talk about Krishna, remember Krishna, serve Krishna, help others to do the same. And this will be our perfection. And this, then we'll be benedicted like Prachinabhari, and we'll go back home to Godhead. So any other questions, comments? Otherwise, we'll meet next weekend. All good? All right, Prabhus. And let us offer our obeisance. Vanchakopatrubhisha Kipasindhibhe Vajapati Bhavane Vaishya Om. Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.